Ruthless is a strong word, and I chose it deliberately because I think the softer versions of what I am about to say have not been landing the way they need to. I have talked on this channel about self-respect and boundaries and holding your ground, and those words are true and they matter. But somewhere in the gentleness of how they get framed, something essential gets lost. So today I am using the stronger word, and I want to explain exactly what I mean by it. Because ruthless does not mean cruel. It does not mean cold. It does not mean turning yourself into someone hard and unreachable as a defense against someone who is already hard and unreachable. Ruthless means the complete, uncompromising elimination of self-betrayal. That is it. That is the whole thing. It means getting to the point where you will not lie to yourself about what is happening, where you will not soften the reality of your experience to make it easier to stay in something that is costing you more than it is giving you, where you will not accept a version of a relationship that requires you to be progressively less yourself in order to maintain it. That kind of ruthlessness is not directed at the avoidant. It is directed at the part of you that keeps making excuses for what you are receiving. Let me be specific about what self-betrayal looks like in this dynamic, because it rarely looks dramatic. It rarely announces itself as a problem. It disguises itself as patience, as understanding, as emotional maturity, as the willingness to love someone through their difficulty. It looks like telling yourself they showed up eventually, so the 3 days of silence was probably fine. It looks like deciding not to bring up the thing that hurt you, because the last time you brought something up, it created distance, and you have decided the peace is more important than the truth. It looks like adjusting your needs downward, slowly, over time, until you are asking for so little that getting so little no longer feels like a problem. It looks like explaining their behavior to your friends with such fluency and such compassion that even you start to believe the explanation is the same as the situation being acceptable. It looks like staying because the good moments are genuinely good, because you have invested so much that leaving feels like confirming the investment was a mistake. Because you love them, and love, you have convinced yourself, requires this level of endurance. Every single one of those things is a form of self-betrayal, and every single one of them, compounded over months and years, produces the kind of quiet erosion of self that is genuinely difficult to recover from. So what does ruthlessness actually look like in practice? It looks like telling yourself the truth about what you are experiencing before you tell yourself the explanation for it. The explanation might be accurate. The avoidant might genuinely be doing the best they can within the limits of their pattern. Their behavior might be completely understandable in the context of their history and their wiring. All of that can be true. And the experience of being on the receiving end of it is still what it is. Ruthlessness means letting both of those things exist simultaneously without letting the explanation cancel out the experience. It looks like having a bottom that is real and not theoretical. Most people in this dynamic have talked about their limits. They have said to themselves, and sometimes to the avoidant, that certain things are not acceptable. And then those things have happened, and the limit has shifted. Because the shift felt like compassion at the time, because the avoidant had a reason, because you did not want to be the kind of person who could not hold space for someone else's difficulty. A real bottom does not shift because the circumstances are understandable. A real bottom is simply the point below which you do not go regardless of the explanation. Not with anger, not with ultimatums, just with the quiet, firm knowledge that this particular thing is not something you are available for. It looks like being willing to lose the relationship rather than lose yourself inside it. This is the hardest one, because for a lot of people, the relationship with this particular person has come to feel irreplaceable. The connection is real, the history is real, the love is real. And you can love someone completely and still recognize that the current form of the relationship is not survivable for you. Those two things are not contradictions. They are just the truth existing at full size without being edited down to something more comfortable. Ruthlessness is not the absence of love. It is the refusal to let love become the reason you abandon yourself. Now I want to say something to the avoidant watching this, because this message is not only for the people loving you, it is for you too. The ruthlessness I am describing in your partner is not your enemy. I know it will not feel that way when you encounter it. When someone stops absorbing your distance without comment, when someone names what is happening clearly and without drama, When someone demonstrates, through their actual behavior rather than their words, that they have a life and a self and a set of needs that are not infinitely negotiable. It will probably activate something uncomfortable in you. The old familiar sense that closeness comes with demands you cannot meet. That loving someone means being consumed by their needs. That this is exactly the kind of pressure you have always needed distance from. But I want you to sit with the discomfort for a moment longer than you usually do before you act on it. Because what you are encountering in that moment is not someone asking you to be less than you are. It is someone refusing to be less than they are. And there is a difference between those two things that is worth understanding. The person who will not betray themselves for you is not the person who will suffocate you. They are the person who will still be whole when you get close to them, who will not collapse into you or reorganize their entire identity around your availability, who will be a separate, solid, real human being standing next to you rather than a reflection of your emotional temperature. And a separate, solid, real human being is the only kind of person it is actually safe to love. Because you cannot lose yourself in someone who has not lost themselves in you. That is the relationship that does not trigger the withdrawal reflex in the same way. Not because it demands nothing, but because what it demands is real and clear and does not shift based on your comfort. You always knew what you needed. You just kept finding people who made themselves small enough that you never had to grow into it. Ruthlessness, theirs and eventually yours, is the thing that ends that pattern. Not with cruelty, with honesty. The kind that does not flinch. The kind that finally tells the truth loudly enough that both people have to hear it and decide what they are going to do with it.